Lama kunjo sumla gyabzuji drola penchir sangye sho. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings never be separated from the great happiness that is beyond all misery. May all beings dwell in equanimity, unaffected by attraction to dear ones and aversion to others. May all beings recover from the sicknesses of mind and body pollution, and enjoy relative and absolute health, now and forever. May all beings relax in a pure and healthy outer and inner environment, now and forever. May all beings enjoy inner peace and world peace, now and forever. Malusem chen kungi gangyu chi dude punje mi tse jom tse la ngena malu yanda kengyo pe chomden go chene die shek su so. Protector of all beings without exception, endless subduer of harmful beings and energies, perfect knower of all things, Bhagavan in attendance, please come here to this place. Darikapa, slave king of the temple whore. Pure pleasure lies within each of us, but delusion veils it. Strive as you will for 100 lifetimes to acquire virtue and mystical awareness, you will never realize pure pleasure without a guru's guidance. Late one afternoon, Indrapala, king of Pataliputra, and all his beaters and trackers were returning from hunting a tiger that had been marauding in the countryside. Tired and hungry, the king decided to take the shortest route back to the palace, which led them through the marketplace. There he spied a crowd of his subjects bowing and giving reverence to someone besides himself. Angered, he rode his mount through the heart of the multitude, where he came face to face with the Siddha Luipa. The king recognized him instantly as the yogin renowned for eating only fish entrails that fishermen throw to the dogs when they clean their day's catch. Indrapala's anger melted away, and he greeted the yogin, whose presence honored his realm. "You are a fine and handsome man," said the king, looking the yogin up and down. "Why don't you give up eating those rotten fish cuts? Come to my palace and let me provide you with fine food and all that you require." Luipa walked around the king, looking him up and down. "Fish guts suit me fine," he said. "And all that I require is release from the wheel of birth and death. Can you give me that?" "No," said the king. "But if you remain with us, I can fulfill your every wish. I will even give you my kingdom, if you so desire," he added, testing the yogin. "Are you offering me the way to deathlessness and eternal youth? That I would accept," Luipa replied. "All that I can offer you is my kingdom and my daughter's hand in marriage," said the king. "Bah," said Luipa, shaking his head in disgust. "Of what use are those things to me?" "Or to me," said the king, suddenly overwhelmed with revulsion for his own way of life. Wearing a crown isn't all that much of the great scheme of things, and the wielding of power has many evil repercussions. Whereupon the king rode away, deep in thought. Several days later, the king called his Brahmin minister to him for a private conference. Indrapala confessed that he had been reviewing his life and had become to the startling conclusion that he was not a happy man. The life of luxury, rich food, and fine clothes had not brought him any sense of satisfaction or accomplishment. I have decided to abdicate in favor of my son and to spend the rest of my life practicing the Dharma, said the king. It will be my greatest honor to accompany you on this path, replied his faithful minister. After the new king had been crowned and the reins of government had been turned over to the next administration, the king and his minister, now no better off than the poorest of beggars, made their way to the cremation ground that Luipa was known to frequent. The yogin initiated them both into the mandala of samvara. However, as neither of them had anything to offer him in return, they agreed to offer him their bodies and become his slaves. As wandering mendicants, Luipa and the two initiates traveled to Orissa, where they remained for some time practicing their sadhana and begging for food. Then they continued on their journey from town to town, arriving at last in Jantipur, a city of 300,000 households. Jantipur was famed for its great temple, which housed 700 dancing girls devoted to the service of God. Luipa took his slaves with him to the temple, where he sought out Darima, the mistress of the temple horse. But their way was barred by 300 burly guards protecting the doors to her domain. In a loud voice, Luipa called out, "I have a male slave that may interest your mistress." "If I like what I see, I might be interested in buying him," drawled a bored voice from within. At which the doors of the dancer's chambers opened, and out came an extraordinary beautiful woman with an exquisite figure. The only thing that marred her perfection was a hint of jaded petulance at the corners of her mouth. Luipa presented the king-turned-slave, and Darima examined him with a practiced eye. Much taken with the prize she was being shown, she offered the Siddha the munificent sum of 100 tolas of gold. The yogin accepted the offer on two conditions. First, the slave was to have a room to himself and always be able to sleep alone. And second, he was to be released from service as soon as he had earned back his purchase price. Darima agreed, and the bargain was struck. For 12 years now, the king served Darima admirably. He washed her feet, massaged her body, saw to the careful preparation of her food, and attended to her every need. But he never once forgot his guru's instruction. He spent every day in service to his mistress, and he spent every night meditating in service to the Dharma. The other servants grew to love and respect him for his many kindnesses to them, often performing their tasks for them too. In time, Darima made him master of her household. One day, Near the end of this period, a very wealthy king by the name of Kunshi arrived at the temple with 500 ounces of gold he had every intention of spending on an orgy of pleasure. The slave king acted as intermediary for the royal visitor and received 7 ounces of gold for every service he provided. Days and nights of debauchery ensued. Every pleasure was provided, every sense indulged, until even the royal visitor began to be sated. After one particularly lavish feast, Kunshi's belly rebelled, and he went out into the night garden to take the air. The night wind was cool and fragrant with a perfume so exquisite the king had to know its source. He intended to take the flowering plant back to his own palace gardens. It was not the familiar jasmine or gardenia intoxicating him, and he began to follow the mysterious scented pathway through the luxuriant foliage to the temple park. In the far distance he spied a faint glow and wondered if the fragrance might be coming from the same source. As Kunshi drew closer, the light became more and more intense, until he stumbled into a small clearing where the radiance dazzled him. Shading his eyes, the king could just make out the form of Darima's slave, seated upon a jeweled throne, attended by 15 girls of unearthly beauty. He stumbled back into the shadows, amazed at what he had seen. As soon as he had his wits about him, Kunshi rushed back to the temple, calling for Darima. Blindfolding her, he told her to hold tight to his hand, for he had something incredible to show her. She followed, drawn by the heady scent in the air and the intense radiance even through her blindfold. Freeing her eyes, she gasped in astonishment and fell to her knees before her former slave. Filled with remorse because she had failed to perceive his true nature, she walked round and round his throne, weaving circles in reverent obeisance. "Oh, forgive me," she said, prostrating herself before the realized yogin. "I am human, and I have made a terrible mistake in not seeing you for the saint you are. I have abused you. I have sinned. Please find it in your heart to pardon me and remain with us as our priest. Please allow us to venerate you for 1 year for each year that you have served us." The slave king leviated into the sky to the height of 7 palm trees and looked down benevolently at the crowd of courtiers, dancing girls, guards, and slaves that had gathered before him. "You are forgiven," he said. "I thank you for your offer, but my service is for all the suffering people of the earth." Everyone there that night became his disciple, and he gave them instruction on the sadhana known as emptying the city, singing his verse. The fabled riches of kings, with their canopies, elephants, and thrones, pale beside my exalted state, for I am shaded by the canopy of liberation, ride the great vehicle of the Mahayana, and reign on the throne of the 3 realms. This is Darikapa's pleasure. The master became known from kingdom to kingdom, from continent to continent, as the guru Darikapa, the horse slave. For many years he served the people selflessly, And when he was assumed bodily into the paradise of the Dakinis, 700 attendants rose with him. Ni modelek zendelek, ni megung yahandelek shin, nin sentak tudelek pel, kunshosum gi jingilop, kunshosum gi ngodrubzo, kunshosum gi tashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.